My child, there are moments in life when truth does not arrive loudly or suddenly. It unfolds slowly, like dawn spreading across a dark sky, revealing what was always there but never fully seen. What I am about to share with you is not just a story of inheritance or fortune, it is a story of memory, recognition, sacrifice, and the quiet ways life connects people across time, in ways they do not always understand at first. It began with a man who had built everything from nothing, someone who carried success on his shoulders, but also carried something heavier beneath it. He had known struggle, betrayal, and survival in equal measure. Over the years, he had learned to read people carefully, not just by their words but by something deeper in their presence. So when he first came across your photograph, something in him paused. He could not explain it. There was no logical reason for it, but he felt something familiar. The shape of your expression, the steadiness in your eyes, the quiet strength in your posture. It reminded him of someone he had once known very well, someone who had changed the direction of his life long before wealth or legacy ever entered the picture. He tried to dismiss it at first, but the feeling stayed with him longer than expected. He later told a close advisor that looking at you felt like standing in the presence of a memory that had never fully faded. It wasn't imagination, it wasn't sentimentality, it was recognition, the kind that does not rely on explanation, because sometimes people carry echoes of those who came before them, not in appearance alone, but in spirit, in temperament, in the quiet way they respond to the world. And your father was one of those rare individuals who left a mark that could not be easily erased. Years ago, long before you were old enough to understand the weight of such history, your father was involved in a situation that tested courage in a way few people ever experience. He was not someone who sought attention or recognition. He was someone who acted when others hesitated. In moments when confusion or fear took over a room, he was the one who stepped forward with clarity. That is what made him unforgettable to those who truly knew him. The benefactor remembered him from a time when everything around them felt uncertain. There were difficult circumstances, difficult decisions, and moments when outcomes could have gone in many directions. But your father acted with conviction. He stood firm when it would have been easier to step aside, and in doing so, he changed the course of more than one life. That memory never left the benefactor. It remained with him quietly for decades, not as a debt, but as something deeper, something like gratitude mixed with awe. So when he later saw you, years after your father had passed, something in him stirred, not confusion, but connection. He began to feel that the past was not as distant as it seemed. It was continuing in another form, through you. Before he made any decisions regarding his estate, he reflected deeply on this feeling. He was not a man who acted impulsively. He considered everything carefully. But in his final years, something shifted in his perspective. He began to see life not as separate events, but as a continuous thread where actions echo forward in ways people cannot always predict. One night, he experienced a dream that left a lasting impression on him. He rarely spoke about dreams, but this one stayed with him so strongly that he recorded it privately in a letter intended for you. In that dream, he saw your father standing in an open field. There was no pain in his expression, no struggle, no weight of the past. Instead, there was calmness, a sense of completion, as if something unfinished had finally found resolution. The atmosphere around him felt peaceful, almost luminous. Your father did not speak. He simply looked forward, toward a distant light that seemed to grow brighter with each passing moment. That light was not harsh or overwhelming. It felt like guidance, like direction, like something inviting, rather than demanding. And then, in that same vision, the benefactor saw you. At first, you were walking alone. The path ahead was unclear, but there was something steady in your movement, something determined, and though the surroundings were uncertain, there was a subtle presence around you, something the benefactor could not easily describe. It felt like protection, or perhaps continuity, as if your father's presence had not entirely left, but had transformed into something quieter, something unseen, but still present. In the dream, your father placed his hand over his heart and extended it toward you. There were no words, but the meaning was unmistakable. This is the one who continues what I began. This is the one who carries forward what I could not finish. When the benefactor woke, he was deeply affected, not because he believed dreams replace reality, but because he could not ignore the emotional clarity it left behind. It felt less like imagination and more like reflection, as though his mind had finally connected the fragments of memory, gratitude, and recognition into a single understanding. In the following weeks, he made careful arrangements. He ensured that everything he had built would be transferred with intention and protection, not out of obligation or pressure, but out of a sense of responsibility he could no longer ignore. He chose to keep it private because he understood something important. Not every truth is meant to be exposed before it is ready. Some things need to unfold quietly, without interference, without distortion. But there was another reason as well. He was aware that not everyone from his past had moved on. There were unresolved tensions, lingering resentments, and people who might not accept decisions that did not benefit them directly. He understood that clarity sometimes invites resistance, and so, your name was placed carefully in the final documents, not announced, not broadcast, but secured, protected, insured. At the same time, there were individuals who once held influence in his life, who reacted strongly when they learned what had been decided. Their reaction was not about wealth alone, it was about expectation, about assumption, about the belief that outcomes would follow a predictable path. But life does not always follow expectation. There were old connections, old disagreements, and old histories that resurfaced in quiet ways. Some of these tensions traced back many years, involving families and decisions that had long since shaped the lives of those involved. Your father had once been part of those earlier moments too, not as someone seeking conflict, but as someone who stood firm when integrity required it. Because of that, he became a point of reference in more than one memory. For some, he represented fairness. For others, he represented resistance. And those interpretations never fully disappeared. Now, years later, those same histories seem to overlap again, not because the past returned, but because its consequences had finally reached a new generation. When your name appeared in the final arrangements, it did more than surprise people. It shifted expectations, it disrupted assumptions, and in that disruption, emotions surfaced that had been buried for a long time. But what matters most is not the reaction of others. What matters is what this truly represents for you. You were not placed into this position randomly. You were not inserted into a story that does not belong to you. You are connected to it through history, through actions that were never fully acknowledged, and through choices made long before you were aware of them. The benefactor understood something important in his final understanding of life. What we receive is often tied to what others once gave, without expectation of return. Your father gave in a moment that mattered deeply, and that moment did not end when time passed. It continued forward, shaping outcomes in ways no one could predict. That is why everything was prepared with such care, not to create pressure, not to create fear, but to ensure continuity, stability, protection. And now, as this truth reaches you, what remains is not uncertainty, but awareness. You are not stepping into something unfamiliar, without foundation. You are stepping into something that was built across time, shaped by decisions, guided by memory, and held together by quiet acts of integrity. Whatever comes next will require strength, but not the kind that is forced, the kind that already exists within you, shaped by where you come from and who came before you. And as you move forward, remember this: what is meant for you does not need to be taken from others. It simply arrives when the time is right, carried forward by everything that led to this moment. The story, in many ways, is not ending here. It is continuing through you, in ways that will become clearer with time. What they spoke in secret is about to fall back on them. What they aimed at you is about to return to the sender. Their attack will become their own unraveling. But you need to understand one more thing before we go deeper. Their plan was not against your present, it was against your future. My child, now that you know who was behind the agreement made in the last 15 minutes, it is time you understand why the attack against you was crafted with such urgency, such precision, and such secretive force. Because what they discussed in that closed room was not a minor matter. It was not a moment of emotional outburst. It was not a temporary wave of anger or jealousy. No, this was something the enemy pushed them to initiate, because the timing of your life has shifted. You may not have realized it yet, but something around you changed recently, quietly, silently, without warning. A door opened. A spiritual gate unlocked. A heavenly schedule adjusted itself. And the moment this shift occurred, darkness noticed. The enemy does not attack randomly, my child. He observes. He calculates. He waits until heaven begins to move, and then he reacts. And 15 minutes ago, when those two sat down, they acted as tools of a bigger agenda, not even understanding the magnitude of what they were doing. But before I reveal the details of their plan, you need to feel the weight of why they did it. My child, you carry something inside you that was never meant to stay small. You carry a calling that has been awakened. You carry a destiny that has begun to vibrate, to stretch, to unlock itself from generations of limitation. The woman, she sensed it, long before you did. She sensed an elevation forming around your life. She sensed your spirit rising, your discernment sharpening, your resilience strengthening. It unsettled her. It triggered her deepest insecurities. It reminded her of everything she wished she could be, but never became. And so her jealousy fermented into bitterness. Her bitterness hardened into resentment. Her resentment evolved into hatred. And hatred, left unchecked, always leads to action. That action is what birthed the moment that took place 15 minutes ago. But the man, he is a different story. He is not the visionary, not the mastermind. He is the one who carries out what others are too afraid to touch directly. He is familiar with spiritual darkness, not because he understands it, but because he yields to it easily. He has spoken curses over people before. He has tried to sabotage others with words, with thoughts, with hidden envy. But what he agreed to do this time was darker than anything he has participated in before, because this time he agreed to aim his spiritual weapon at you. He aimed his words, he aimed his thoughts, he aimed his intentions, he aimed his energy toward you. But listen to me, my child, none of his arrows found their target. Before the first curse traveled, I blocked it. Before the first negative word left his breath, I intercepted it. Before his intention could take shape in the spiritual realm, I dismantled it. He thought he had taken the first shot. He thought he had launched his attack. He thought he had triggered something that would damage your destiny. He is wrong, because he does not understand that I stand watch over you in a way he has never seen. He does not understand that every time darkness tries to strike you, I shift the ground beneath your feet. He does not understand that every scheme formed in secret collapses before it ever touches your life. And you, my child, you need to understand something too. You were not targeted because you are weak. You were targeted because you are chosen. The attack was not formed because you are vulnerable. The attack was formed because your destiny is rising. My child, the enemy uses people who are spiritually blind to carry out plans they cannot comprehend. And that is exactly what happened 15 minutes ago. The woman acted out of jealousy, but deeper than that, darkness nudged her spirit. The man acted out of weakness, but deeper than that, the enemy manipulated his brokenness. They saw only the natural picture. The enemy saw the spiritual picture, but I see the eternal picture. And here is where the truth becomes even more serious, my child. The plan they created was designed to hit you on multiple levels, not just emotionally, not just mentally, but spiritually and generationally. Their agreement wasn't formed to hurt your present. It was formed to interrupt your future. The woman wanted your momentum crushed. She wanted your influence dimmed. She wanted your name tarnished. She wanted people to turn against you. She wanted your confidence shaken, your clarity blurred, your peace disturbed. She wanted to break what she believed was forming in your life. But what she doesn't know is this: you are stepping into a timeline I designed long before she ever existed. She cannot stop what I ordained. She cannot delay what I scheduled. She cannot destroy what I planted. And the man, he believed he had the authority to damage your spirit. He believed he could release words that would impact your destiny. But what he didn't understand is that your spirit is covered, your name is protected, your path is sealed in my hand. No word formed against you carries weight in my presence. But now, my child, it is time you understand what they planned, because the enemy is most terrified when you gain awareness. Knowledge weakens his plans. Revelation dismantles his grip. So hear this: their plan was designed to isolate you. They wanted you to feel abandoned. They wanted you to be misunderstood. They wanted people around you to shift suddenly. They wanted confusion to rise around your relationships. They wanted doors to close unexpectedly. They wanted opportunities to slip from your hands. They wanted heaviness to sit on your chest without explanation. This was strategic, because the enemy knows if he can isolate you, he can distract you. And if he can distract you, he can delay you. But he failed, because even though you felt pressure recently, even though your heart sensed something strange, even though the atmosphere around you felt heavier, your spirit stayed connected to mine. Your sensitivity protected you. Your frustration exposed the attack. Your sudden discomfort was a warning. What you felt was not weakness, it was discernment. Even when you didn't know the details, your spirit reacted to what was being spoken behind your back. But now, my child, you know the full truth. A dark agreement was made. A plan was set. Your name was spoken in shadows. Your destiny was marked. But the same moment they agreed, I disagreed. And where my voice stands, every other voice falls powerless. But we are not done, because I need to take you deeper. I need to show you why the heavens shook, why the angels took formation, why the spiritual realm reacted, and what is about to shift over your life because of this plot. My child, Now that you understand the origin of this attack, the people behind it, and the darkness that influenced them, it is time for you to see the true weight of what happened in the unseen realm. Because what shook the heavens was not merely the agreement made 15 minutes ago. It was not just the whispering of your name in secret, not just the forming of an evil plan, not just the intentions hidden behind their faked smiles and controlled expressions. No, my child. What shook the heavens was something far deeper, far older, far more connected to your spiritual identity than you realize. It was the timing. You see, the enemy does not panic over people who are stagnant. He does not mobilize forces against people who are stuck. He does not provoke others to strike against those who pose no threat. The enemy trembled because your season shifted. 15 minutes before the deal was made against you, heaven had already begun moving something into place, something for you, something connected to your calling, something that would change the trajectory of your life, and darkness sensed it instantly. What did the heavens sense? A release, a breakthrough, a lifting, a divine appointment, an upcoming elevation. Your name came into alignment with a new spiritual timeline, and the enemy reacted with desperate speed. This is why the woman felt the sudden urge to create this plan. This is why the man agreed without hesitation. This is why the meeting happened exactly when it did. This is why the plan was so sudden, so sharp, so intentional. It wasn't coincidence. It was response. The heavens were shaken because an attack was launched at the exact moment your destiny stepped forward. The angels were stirred because a coordinated strike was attempted at the precise moment heaven had opened a door for you. My presence moved because the enemy was trying to intercept a blessing that had already been dispatched with your name on it. My child, listen carefully now, because this is where things become even more intense. When the woman and the man spoke your name in darkness, something else happened simultaneously. Your name was spoken in heaven, not in whispers, not in secrecy, not in darkness. It was spoken in authority, in purpose, in destiny, in clarity. Your name echoed before my throne, and the moment your name was released, a shift took place around your spirit. You didn't see it in the natural, but your heart felt it. That sudden heaviness, that unexplainable swirl of thoughts, that strange emotional pull, that restlessness, that confusion, that pressure, that is what you felt. You were not imagining anything. What you felt was the collision of two spiritual agendas, the enemy's plan and heaven's plan, and heaven overpowered it. But before you understand how heaven defended you, you need to understand exactly why you were targeted in such a precise moment. My child, what rests inside you is not ordinary. Your anointing is not random. Your calling is not accidental. There is something inside you that carries generational weight, something that threatens every cycle, curse, and limitation that has tormented your family line. And the enemy has known this longer than you have. He saw the shift. He saw the growth. He saw the spiritual awakening. He saw the angels preparing. He saw your spirit rising, even when you weren't aware of it yourself. He saw the mantle on you beginning to unfold. He saw the protection around you increasing. He saw your sensitivity sharpening. He saw your endurance strengthening. He saw your heart being transformed. My child, what you call struggle, the enemy saw as development. What you call confusion, the enemy saw as transition. What you call pressure, the enemy saw as activation. And when he realized that you were stepping into the fullness of who I designed you to be, he knew he had to strike fast, because he understood something the woman and the man did not. If he waited any longer, you would become unstoppable. So he influenced two individuals who were spiritually vulnerable. He planted thoughts in their minds. He stirred jealousy, insecurity, and fear in the woman. He weakened the man's discernment. He exploited their brokenness. He didn't need them to understand the plan. He only needed them to agree to it. And when they did, the spiritual realm shook. But my child, listen closely. The heavens did not shake in fear. They shook in defense. They shook in movement. They shook in activation. They shook in response to the threat against you. Because the moment darkness lifted its hand against you, thousands of angels shifted their positions. A wall of fire stood up around you. A shield formed over your spirit. A barrier rose between you and every curse spoken by the man's tongue. Every arrow he tried to release shattered before it reached the atmosphere surrounding your life. And the woman, her intentions became powerless the moment I stepped in. But now, I need to show you the part the enemy hoped you would never realize. My child, the attack wasn't aimed at your present, it was aimed at your tomorrow. The enemy wasn't trying to wound your emotions, he was trying to delay your destiny. The woman thought she was creating a plan to stop your progress, but darkness used her brokenness to target the part of you that the enemy fears the most: your future authority, your future influence, your future impact. What he attacked was your purpose, your voice, your anointing, your legacy, your next level. He aimed for the seed you carry, not the fruit you show, because the fruit can grow back, but the seed carries generations, and you, my child, are carrying a generational shift without even realizing it yet. This is why everything around you felt intense recently. This is why relationships shifted. This is why people changed toward you. This is why doors opened and closed unexpectedly. This is why you felt emotional pressure. This is why strange thoughts passed through your mind. This is why your sleep felt disrupted. This is why your spirit felt unsettled. You weren't under emotional attack. You were under spiritual targeting. Not because you are weak, but because your destiny woke up. But now listen to me with all your heart. Their plan did not work. It collapsed the moment they agreed to it. It crumbled the moment they spoke your name. It shattered the moment it was formed. Not because of your strength, but because of my intervention. I stepped between you and every dark intention. I intercepted every spiritual bullet. I silenced every whisper formed against you. I dismantled every agenda built to harm you. I struck down every word the man released. I exposed every motive the woman hid. I cut off every path their plan tried to take. I frustrated their timing. I reversed their assignment. I blocked their access. I canceled their outcome. And now something is shifting in your favor in a far bigger way, because what they meant for destruction, I am turning into elevation. My child, now that everything has been exposed, the timing, the intention, the darkness behind their whispers, the man and the woman, the curse they tried to send, the trap they tried to build, the spiritual bullet they attempted to fire, it is time for you to hear the conclusion, because everything you have learned until now was only the beginning. The moment the plan was formed 15 minutes ago was just the spark. The moment the attack was attempted was only one layer. The moment the heavens responded was only the first wave. But now, my child, you are stepping into the part the enemy feared the most, the aftermath, the divine reaction, the reversal, the final verdict, the ending that heaven wrote. You must understand something very important before anything else. There is no attack without a response, and there is no response from heaven that does not produce transformation. My child, darkness touched your name, and heaven reacted. The enemy breathed against your destiny, and the angels stood up. The woman raised her jealousy, and my justice awakened. The man aimed his spiritual bullet, and I positioned myself in front of you like a shield of fire. They spoke your name in wickedness, and I wrote your name in protection. They plotted your downfall, and I prepared your elevation. They tried to dim your path, and I ignited your future with a brightness beyond their understanding. This is the part they never saw coming. Now listen to me, my child. With all the awareness of your spirit, the attack they formed is going to become the reason for your breakthrough. The curse they sent is going to become the fuel for your blessing. My child, there are moments in life when everything feels like it is working against you, when misunderstandings grow louder than truth, when setbacks feel heavier than strength, and when silence itself feels like a kind of confusion you cannot explain. But I want you to understand something important in this moment. You are not being forgotten, and your story is not being erased. What feels like chaos around you is often the beginning of something that is quietly being reshaped into clarity. There are times when life creates situations that feel like they were meant to break you down, but later you realize they were actually revealing something far deeper. The things that test your patience, your emotions, and your confidence are not always punishments. Sometimes they are turning points. Sometimes they are the very pressure that forces hidden strength to rise within you. Right now, even if it doesn't feel like it, changes are already taking place around your life. Some things that once felt stuck are beginning to loosen. Some situations that felt uncertain are slowly shifting into place, and some emotions that felt heavy are starting to settle, even if you haven't fully noticed it yet. There are people who may have misunderstood you along the way. Situations may have been interpreted in ways that were not fair to your heart, but over time, truth has a way of becoming clearer without force. You don't need to chase every misunderstanding or defend every silence. Life has its own way of revealing what is real and what was only confusion. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually redirection. Something you thought was slipping away may have been removed to protect your peace or to make space for something better aligned with your growth. Not everything meant for you arrives when you expect it, and not everything delayed is denied. Some things return in better form, and some things are replaced with something you didn't even know you needed. You may have also noticed people coming and going from your life. That is a natural part of growth. Not every connection is meant to last forever, and not every absence is a loss. Some people stay for a season, some for a lesson, and some for a lifetime. As you continue to grow, you naturally begin to attract different energies, people who understand your direction, respect your journey, and align with your peace rather than your confusion. Letting go of certain relationships doesn't mean bitterness. It often means maturity. It means recognizing that your path is evolving, and not everything can evolve with you. And as space is created, new connections often begin to form, connections that feel more balanced, more genuine, and more supportive of who you are becoming. There are also moments in life where your mind feels clouded, where decisions feel harder than usual, and where emotions seem to pull you in different directions. But even that is not permanent. Mental fog always clears, emotional weight always lightens, clarity always returns, even if it takes time. You are entering a phase where understanding yourself becomes easier again, where intuition strengthens, and where confusion slowly loses its grip. You may not see it immediately, but your inner world is stabilizing. The thoughts that once felt overwhelming will begin to organize themselves into understanding. The pressure you felt in your chest will begin to ease, and the uncertainty that once surrounded your decisions will slowly give way to direction. At the same time, your life is not standing still. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, movement is taking place beneath the surface. progress is not always visible in the moment. Sometimes it happens quietly, like seeds growing underground, before they ever reach the surface. What you are building, what you are learning, and what you are becoming is still unfolding, even in silence. Delays you experienced were not meaningless. They shaped patience within you. They taught endurance. They strengthened awareness. And in many ways, they prepared you for what you are stepping into next. Because when the right timing arrives, things begin to align in ways that feel almost effortless compared to what came before. There are also experiences that once felt like losses but are slowly revealing themselves as protection. Not everything that didn't work out was meant to harm you. Some things were simply not built to support your future direction. And sometimes life removes what doesn't belong so you don't carry unnecessary weight into your next chapter. What is ahead of you is not a continuation of struggle, but a shift toward balance. You are moving into a phase where understanding replaces confusion, where stability replaces uncertainty, and where progress feels more natural than forced. This doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It means you become stronger at navigating it. And with that strength comes clarity about the kind of life you want to build, the kind of people you want around you, and the kind of energy you are no longer willing to accept. Growth often brings discernment. You begin to recognize what drains you and what supports you. You begin to value peace more than validation. You begin to choose alignment over approval. There may be moments when you reflect on what you have been through and wonder why certain things happened the way they did. But over time, those questions shift into understanding. Not everything will make sense immediately, but clarity often arrives in layers, not all at once. And when it does, you realize that even the hardest moments contributed to your growth in ways you didn't see at the time. What matters now is not what was lost, but what remains within you, your resilience, your ability to continue, your capacity to learn, and your willingness to keep moving forward even when things were unclear. Those qualities are what carry you into your next phase. You are entering a period where things begin to feel more settled, not rushed, not chaotic, but steady. Opportunities begin to appear more naturally. Conversations become more meaningful. Choices become clearer, and your sense of direction becomes stronger than before. It is important to trust that process. Not everything needs to be forced. Not everything needs immediate answers. Some of the best outcomes come when you allow life to unfold at its own pace, rather than trying to control every detail. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not stuck. You are in transition. And transition often feels uncertain before it becomes beautiful. So take a moment to breathe. Let go of what is no longer yours to carry. Release the pressure to understand everything right now. Trust that clarity will continue to come, step by step, moment by moment, because your story is still being written, and what is ahead of you is not defined by what tried to slow you down, but by how you continued forward despite it all. And in that continuation, something powerful is forming, a stronger mindset, a clearer path, and a version of you that is more aware, more grounded, and more prepared for what comes next. Your journey is not ending in confusion, it is unfolding into understanding, and what is ahead is not loss, but growth.